There's an old saying in football that goes like this: those who don't learn from their own mistakes are doomed to repeat them. And the Eagles' biggest rival seems not to have learned absolutely anything, my friend. Less than a year ago, this franchise was forced to part ways with one of the most dominant players in the entire league because it let a situation rot all the way to the point of no return. And now, with an audience watching, they're repeating the exact same dangerous script with another one of their biggest stars. The difference is that, this time, the one who might come out ahead in this whole soap opera is Philadelphia itself. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because this is one of those situations that can turn the balance of power in the entire division upside down. You're going to understand why Howie Roseman's eyes should be glued to this ticking time bomb set up in the state of Texas, and why it connects directly to the biggest question mark on the Eagles' own roster. Stick with me until the end, because this story has a lot more layers than it seems. Let me set the scene for you. Last year, the Cowboys had their hand forced and ended up trading the star Micah Parsons, one of the best defenders on the planet. The Eagles, in fact, wanted to be the team to take Parsons off Dallas's hands, but the Texans made life difficult for Philadelphia and in the end closed the deal with the Green Bay Packers. Well then, a year later, Dallas is playing the exact same risky game, this time with an elite wide receiver, a 25-year-old guy, freshly voted to the Pro Bowl, who had the best season of his life in 2025. His name is George Pickens, and the situation is far from calm. Pickens wanted a new deal, a long-term one, before the 2026 season. Instead, what he got from Dallas was the franchise tag, that label that ties a player down for one more year, with a guaranteed salary of $27,300,000. The deadline to work out a long-term extension has already passed, on July 15th, and the two sides got nowhere. In other words, Pickens is tied to Dallas for this season, with no guarantee of a future, playing on a one-year deal only. And the Cowboys made it publicly clear that they didn't even intend to negotiate a long-term agreement. Translating that, they aren't sure they want to invest heavily in this player over the long haul. And that's where the danger lives. The experts are already watching. Analyst Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report placed Pickens on a list of the next NFL stars who might ask to be traded. And his argument is sharp. Davenport points out that this is a situation that could go south very quickly, given the volatile history Pickens has already had in his relationships with previous teams. And he's right about that. Pickens' stint with his previous franchise, the Pittsburgh Steelers, had already ended in a far from friendly way. In other words, this is not an unknown player when the subject is friction. And Davenport raises the question that scares any Dallas fan. What happens if the Cowboys start poorly in 2026? What happens if the share of the ball he gets doesn't turn into the production he's hoping for to secure that huge multi-million-dollar contract in 2027? The answer is simple. The whole thing could blow up. And it's worth understanding how this player ended up in Texas, because it explains a lot. Pickens was a second-round pick of the Steelers in the 2022 draft, out of the University of Georgia, and he spent the first 3 years of his career in Pittsburgh. It was there that the relationship soured, to the point that the Steelers traded him to Dallas in exchange for draft picks. In other words, the Cowboys already knew exactly the kind of strong personality they were signing when they went after him. And there's a financial detail that squeezes this equation even tighter. The team's other star receiver, CeeDee Lamb, just signed a massive contract worth $136 million. Paying two wide receivers at the absolute top of the market is nearly impossible within the salary cap, and that weight on the wallet is one of the central reasons why Dallas hesitated so much to extend Pickens for good. And we're not talking about just any player, mind you. George Pickens comes off a monster season. In 2025, playing for the first time in a Dallas jersey, he exploded with personal records in every category that matters. 93 receptions, 1,429 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. Numbers that earned him the first Pro Bowl selection of his career, and also a spot on the second-team All-Pro. He was a fundamental piece in an offense that was among the most lethal in the league, shining even during a stretch when the team's other star, CeeDee Lamb, was sidelined with an injury. We're talking about a top-tier talent, in his prime, at just 25 years of age. That's the kind of player who changes the ceiling of an offense. Now comes the part that matters for the green side of the story. From a purely rivalry standpoint, the Eagles can already feel good just watching this spectacle. One of their biggest rivals, a direct division opponent, is flirting with chaos by treating a dynamic player like this in such a risky way. Every day of tension in Dallas is a gift for Philadelphia. But there's a much more interesting layer to this story, and it has to do with a real need on the Eagles' own roster. Because, let's be honest, the Eagles have their own question marks, and all of them live at exactly the wide receiver position. It's true that Philadelphia is confident that Devonta Smith can take over the #1 receiver spot and produce like a first-rate star. But the rest of the receiving group has a lot to prove. Dontavion Wicks and Marquise Brown, Hollywood, are veterans who needed a fresh start and who have no guarantee they'll click alongside Jalen Hurts. As for Mekhi Lemon, he's the first-round rookie, full of expectations, but you can't ask the world of him right off the bat. Keep in mind that the Eagles parted ways with an all-pro wide receiver when they traded A.J. Brown, and he left enormous shoes to fill. And this is where the two threads of the story cross, in an almost poetic way. The Eagles are recognized as one of the most aggressive teams in the entire league when it comes to the trade market. Howie Roseman isn't afraid to make a big swing. So imagine this. If Philadelphia's passing attack, which is already a question mark without A.J. Brown, stumbles right at the start of the season, a player of George Pickens' caliber would become an extremely tempting option. You combine the Eagles' need with Dallas's ticking time bomb, and suddenly you've got a movie script set up. It wouldn't be shocking at all to see this analyst's prediction come true at some point. Now, to be fair and transparent, it's essential to keep our feet on the ground, because there's a pretty solid other side to this coin. The Cowboys, through the mouths of their own owners, categorically stated that they have zero intention of trading Pickens this year. Jerry Jones and company dug in on that publicly. On top of that, teams in the same division rarely make deals with each other, and it's obvious that Dallas would make any conversation as difficult as possible if it meant handing a talent like that on a silver platter to a direct rival like Philadelphia. Add to that the fact that Pickens himself, so far, hasn't shown any public frustration with his situation. On the contrary, he has already stated that his focus is on winning, that his dream is to bring a Super Bowl title to a group of players who have never felt that taste. That's far from the speech of someone asking to leave. So, in reality, the prediction of a trade is still much more speculation based on history and on the potential for conflict than a concrete move in progress. It's a scenario, not a fact, and the difference between the two in the world of the NFL is gigantic. The most likely thing, looking at it coldly, is that this whole situation only really takes shape down the road, in 2027, when the Cowboys will have to decide whether they put the franchise tag on Pickens again, for an even higher figure, or whether they go for a tag-and-trade scenario. That's when the door could truly open. But that's exactly why it makes all the sense in the world for Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office to keep this subject on the radar. In football, the biggest behind-the-scenes moves are born from exactly these situations that seem improbable on paper. A team with a clear need at a position, a rival treating a star with neglect, and a talented player tied to a short-term deal. The ingredients are all on the table. It's possible nothing happens. But if the Eagles' season gets tight on the offensive side, don't doubt for a single second that this name will come back to haunt the headlines in Philadelphia. So I want to know your opinion. Do you think the Eagles should go all in for George Pickens if that door opens, even having to negotiate with their biggest division rival? Or do you trust Devonta Smith and the current crew to hold down the passing attack without having to spend a fortune on a problematic star? And going further, do you believe this Dallas soap opera ends in a trade, the way it happened with Micah Parsons? Leave it in the comments. I really want to read what you think. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later to update you with the latest Eagles news.